Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Dietra, and today I want to focus on asking some better questions. So I'm going to go through a couple questions that I hear all the time, and I want to know if these are some questions that you hear a lot or you find yourself asking, right? And I'm specifically thinking about our movement work, and movements when we think about, women's rights, human rights, our civil rights, just, all of those different things. In particular, I've done a lot of work in the recovery movement. And so recognizing that people die because we are not providing the kind of care that we should provide. Um, so in any case, the first thing I want you to think about is like, do you hear some of these questions? And obviously it'd be great if you were to comment on what some of the questions you hear are, and I can make some other videos about what we can do to address those questions. So the first is, are we making progress? I hear so many people complain that, it feels like we take two steps, forward and one step back. Um, so I have a couple things I want to say about that. And I think it's important that we pay attention to what we're saying, because what we say has a big impact on the things that we will notice and what we're going to manifest to be real. So if we are only looking at things that are not working, then that's what we're going to focus in on, and we're not going to actually see the things that have helped us and moved us forward. So the image I want to share with you in terms of this idea of two steps forward and one step back is that when you're trying to climb a mountain, it is not a great idea to try and trudge straight up that mountain. You will tire yourself out. I mean, it is just, and you can't take everybody with you. If I think about my parents and my, my little nieces, they can't follow you going straight up that mountain. So when we go up a mountain, oftentimes it is around, sometimes it's back, and many times you're going to go through parts of that mountain that are dark and scary, and you're going to feel like I am getting nowhere closer to where you want to go. And it is just going to be, a trudge. And so I think that if we can shift this frame of, are we making progress? And ask some different questions that might help. And one of those is to really think about how we journey together and how we go up a mountain. And very often in this work, we actually have to think about we're kind of all on a journey together. And it's a whole lot easier to embrace the work that we're trying to do if we stop trying to think about it as a race, and we stop trying to think about it as like achieving something. So when we're trying to have civil rights and our human rights, and making sure that my children and the future people that come after me, my ancestors, that I can be a good ancestor here, that we're not just talking about now, we're actually talking about laying a foundation for a future. So that's one. um, the second question that I wanted to talk a little bit about today, is that people get really like, they become aware of what the problems are, and then they just want to know, what can we do? What can we do? What should we do? And they're like focused on action. So a frame I want to share with you that I learned some time ago is based in a sort of a liberation mindset. And it has four components. One is awareness. The second is analysis. The third is action. And then the fourth is accountability. I think it's so important that we talk about all of these things. And what I find is that a lot of people want to move right to accountability, and they think of accountability as punishment. And if you think about this for yourself, right? This is something I want us to let go. If you think about accountability as punishment, why would you tell anybody? Why would you want to acknowledge where you've gone wrong? However, when we are really looking at what helps, when people are well, when they're in a process of recovery and wellness, we actually have to talk about the real things. And so accountability looks different once you're in that space. So I want to, acknowledge that one of the things we do is we try to jump right to accountability. The other thing we do is that we try to jump right to action. We become aware of the problem. We want to go right to the action. And what we're doing is that we're leaving out the critical step of analysis and centering the group that is most vulnerable and most impacted. It takes a bit more work, but this is what we have to be able to do to create the sustainability. And I think it's one of the reasons that there has felt like all we do is talk, because what we're doing is we start with this awareness and we jump either straight to accountability and people are exiting, or we jump straight to action. And it's not the right action because we haven't centered the people who are most impacted. So that's one piece, is that to think about what are the actions that we actually need. I want us to think about some different questions. Who are the people we need to talk to? Who is being impacted? It's just learning to ask some different questions. Another statement, and so not necessarily a question, that I hear all the time, is that our systems are broken, right? That things just don't seem to be working. And again, I think that the piece that this does is that if we just think of the system as being broken, then we're tempted to try and throw everything away. And what I have learned is that very often the system is working for someone, just not all of us. Okay, like the system is working as it should in some ways, right? In some ways, that's the other part of it. Instead of saying it's broken, maybe it was actually built that way. Um, so to give a little bit, because I tend to want to find a way to soften that a little bit. If we were to go down this line that it is working as it was built, what we can recognize in that is that the people who needed to be served were not part of building the system. And therefore, it is not serving those who are on the margins and are most being impacted. Being on the margin doesn't mean that you're in the minority. That's another piece. Just because you're on the margin, in many of our groups, those of us, when we think about the world, we are not the minority. We are just on the margins. And so I think it's important that first of all, we question and we stop talking about the system being broken. We acknowledge that the system is probably working as it should, and that it needs to be tweaked, or changed, or completely, done away with. But I would want us to first find out, well, how does it work? And if it went, the parts of it that are working, how and why? What are the pieces that make it work well? And then we can take the lessons from that in order to decide, is that match or fit or support the other work that we actually want to do. Okay, so let's work on this whole question around the system is broken. And again, I'd love it if you would to put some comments and share with me how often you've seen that, or even your take on this system being broken. The next thing I wanted to talk about, though, is this other idea. So when we're thinking about movement work, and we're trying to get momentum, the other thing I hear all the time, and I've actually designed like my whole business to flip this around, is that people often want to talk about making the business case. And what I want you to understand about this is that, okay, you can make the business case, but that doesn't need to be the first thing. When we look at the science of what actually helps people to care, it is not data. It is telling a better story. And I know that some people will be like, oh, I'm so tired of these, feel good stories or this or that. That doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying you need the feel good story. I'm saying that you need to tell a better story, and that oftentimes we need to find a way to bring people in, help them connect with something that they feel like they can do, and give them a very clear call to action of what it is you want them to do about whatever it is you just raised the concern around. And one of those things that gets in the way very often, right, is like we often hear in certain circles, oh, you need to vote. You need to join your local school boards, or, those sorts of things. And for some people, that's going to make sense, right? Like that's going to be that's okay. That's good. That's a good call to action. I think that one of the things that we could do better is helping people have better conversations. I think that we need to help people with themselves, with their family members, with their neighbors, be able to have curious conversations and actually create a space in which people are both heard and believed. We need to connect. We need to build community. And so, in any case, when we think about starting with a business case, in my experience, you can have all the right numbers. That doesn't mean that people are making those decisions to move in that direction. And very often, a lot of decisions get based more on relationships and more based on who someone knows and trust than on the data. And I'll share one really interesting thing that happened a couple years ago. I was actually looking at some data of a high school, and I won't say the high school, but it's, in the South, and was being brought in to help them, help the teachers, just be able to basically be a bit more inclusive in the work that they were doing. And what was really fascinating, in looking at their data is that the students, so they had, Hispanic students, they had Black students, they had white students. The Black and Hispanic students were basically failing all subjects, like just they were just failing all subjects. And but they were still being graduated. So this is part of the reason why we're like being brought in. The white students were passing all subjects except for physical education. So I went to figure out what is physical education and this, what did they put this in? That basically it's science. So for me, I don't know if this resonates for you, but what that helped me understand is that we are having students graduate who do not understand basic science. And we're wondering why we have people questioning science right now, right? If you don't know some of the basics, then and you haven't been exposed, you've actually been graduated, and allowed to not know this, this would be a thing. All right, so that's a little bit of a side, but I think it's an important piece to like sort of put some context in, and then also recognize why we need to be really looking at those numbers and not in a judgmental way, but in a way to inform us so that we can actually make some decisions that help people. So, what I would say out of this is that the business case often get so caught up in numbers that we haven't stopped to find out, well, what actually do they want to know? What's going to be a metric that's actually going to help move the system? So often we collect all this data and it's actually not the kind of data that we need. So that's the second part of why we want to be careful about asking the business case. All right. So the next thing I want to say and share with you is just this dismay. So we're talking about movement work. We're talking about how easy it is for people to feel like again like they're going but not making progress. Somehow we're not getting to the place where we're supposed to be. And I think the question is, how is it that people can just walk by harm? This has been an age-old concern, right? If we go back and we look at scripture, for example, and we think about the Good Samaritan, that was basically the message that was being, shared there of how, someone else's busyness can have them just walk on by someone who's in need of help. We have to help create a culture and we have to help cultivate spaces for people to actually be moved to a place of compassion. And so that is actually part of my mission. My mission and part of why I'm here and will do whatever I can to show up in different spaces, is that I believe that part of what we need is that people need to, for themselves, have a space in which they have felt heard and believed, in which they have had someone respond to them with compassion and care, so that they can then pass that forward to others. And I want to do that in uh, all different kinds of ways, so sharing some of these tips, encouraging us to learn how to tell stories. One of my favorite things is actually to just help us stop And take a deep breath. Learn how to center ourselves. Learn how to slow down a little bit, practice a little gratitude, and as I often say, find a way to let go. Find a way to stop holding on to some of these ideas, because sometimes if we don't let go, then we can't receive. And so I want to help you have space so that you can receive. And to do that, we're going to breathe. I'm going to invite you to practice asking some different questions. So one of my tips is to practice learning how to ask why 5 times without being an annoying 3-year-old. Okay. So there's more to that, but that I'm just going to leave it there. And I'm also going to leave with you a couple more things, right? One that I've tried to sort of role model here, which is to try and tell a story. And then what you do later is you learn how to tell a better story. So you figure out what stories actually resonate with people, and pull them in that they can relate to. But learning how to tell a better story is really important. And what I want to highlight with this is that we need to stop, be careful about telling stories that are all about the problem, and introduce a story right at the beginning about what the hope is. And then you can tell the parts that are difficult, but get back to the hope. So often we just hear all the things that are wrong. So part of telling the story is actually learning how to tell stories that uplift and create movement and help people do 3 things. They help people look forward, they help people look in, and they help people look back. All right. So that we can keep moving forward. So I just want to, these are going to be things we could do more on, but look forward. So that's asking a question of like, what do you imagine? Or imagine that this happened. This is putting the future forward. Go in, imagine what it's like to have lived in this, experience, and then go back. I wonder what helped, what created. This is like understanding our context and history so that then we can move forward again. All right. So that's what this does. And then the last thing I want to just sort of end with, and I hope that you have found some of what I'm sharing helpful. So make sure you like and comment so that we can continue to provide content and material that will be helpful to you, especially as you find yourself, maybe struggling to let go. And again, it's, because if we don't let go, we'll get dragged. Um, my favorite thing to tell people who are in leadership positions is to don't go alone. So you have meetings that you're part of, or you're, going to join something. This is community. This is that call to action, right? Do it in partnership with someone else. We know on all kinds of science tells us that accountability, not the gotcha accountability, okay, the accountability of having a partner, having someone know that you're doing this with, or just bringing someone with you, increases the likelihood of you being successful. So don't go alone. Build in a partner that creates that accountability, and that accountability part is going to be more of the cheerleading instead of the gotcha. And that's going to make a big difference. And I just want to, thank you for listening so far, as I'm on this mission to touch 1 million people so that they know and have felt that they have been heard and believed, and that we can find ways to let go of the things that get in the way and actually move toward the things that help us. So I look forward to hearing what is resonating with you, and finding out what other kind of content. So like and share, and let's keep this conversation going.